So I got a gripe.
Wait, you have a gripe?
I got a gripe.
That's mad.
Basically, long story short, a lot of people have been sending links to like supplements that they use, right? And we're guilty of it as well. We are guilty of it as well. When you're like looking at supplements to take and you end up taking cheaper supplements. And this is going to be a bit of a rant on cheaper supplements because it's I think I've tried to bite my tongue with a lot of it because we've been in the industry for so long. But I've started to get more and more frustrated, right? So if you go on like social media, there's loads of companies that are just like, have you been interested in setting up your own supplement brand? Are you a PT? Do you know what you want for it to give your clients? And then they build out these small manufacturer batch supplements and try and make it as cheap as possible. Fuck. Cheap is not good. And I started to clock this a little bit recently when we started working with a manufacturer, and Jamie, really, really lovely bloke. He's our UK RP, did a lot of support, provided a lot of support to me. But when I sit down with him, I started talking to him a bit more about the manufacturing process and started to understand it a little bit more.
He's an interesting dude.
He's an interesting dude, right? And I don't know if we'll ever manage to get him on.
We have learned some things.
Yeah. And he basically took me down a rabbit hole on magnesium and the oxide and carbonate and bisglycinate and glycinate. And we're going to do a full video on this. So I'm not going to ruin it too much. I'm going to cover it. We're covering a proper video.
Yeah, because you don't want to bring up the M word and then just cut me off.
No. I know. So the thing is, right, basically what he kind of alluded to, and which we'll cover properly because we're going to link all the papers down below, was that the research has actually been manipulated by companies. And this is kind of going off a tangent for what the topic's actually about. But they've manipulated the data to sell other forms of nutrients because it was a lower dosage, but what it meant was you were on the product for a longer period of time and you couldn't saturate the system. And what they did is so even the supplement industry is guilty of it. They've basically cherry picked the points and gone through it. And now this brings me to the context of why I'm talking about these cheap supplements. So a lot of people are buying supplements on Amazon, right? And I started to look at a couple of these companies with that kind of like I'm gonna use the magnesium because I've got it in my head, or even the vitamin D3. And it was like the vitamin D3 and the magnesium thing is like, mine's better than yours. And it's basically a dick swinging competition between different companies. And what they do is like they race to zero with the cost, and they'll say these like really jazzy words like much better absorption, much better this, and then you actually start reading the descriptions and there's no substance to it. What they've done is they've taken someone else's research or some other researcher's data and then said that theirs does this. And what they're relying on the reviews of like some people going, oh yeah, when I took this, I did feel better. Well, of course you did. Because if you're really deficient and you start adding things like magnesium or vitamin D, of course you start to feel better. But then when you actually look at the product and actually look at the ingredients, and now what they'll talk about is the no fillers, no excipients, and all the things like that. By the way, that's another thing that's been manipulated. Mm-hmm. That's another thing that's been...
Sometimes you need some additives.
Yeah.
I mean, there's also a lot of crap there, but sometimes you do need them for the integrity of a product. And actually, certain nutrients, if they don't have it, that's more of a red flag.
And like magnesium stearate, it's a fatty acid. We have fatty acids in our body where our body is made up of it, but somehow someone's manipulated that magnesium stearate. It's a bad thing.
Yeah.
But actually, the research doesn't back up what they're saying. It's been cherry picked out.
I think the sourcing matters as well, because I wonder if it's coming a little bit from that place, because particularly as like nutritionists, and I'm sure dietitians and things say this as well, is that, you know, for food, look on the back of the packet, and if you don't understand every ingredient, then don't buy it, because it usually means that it's ultra processed or there's loads of crap in there. And yes, that matters to an extent with supplements, but as you're, I think, alluding to, there is another layer. So sometimes additives are required, but still look at the kind of sourcing. And sometimes the products that are, 100% natural, really important for a lot of things, I would argue most things, because you know how like fanatic I am trying to find more natural, non-toxic products. But actually sometimes that is a red flag, and that could cause more of an issue than less.
So the thing what I'm trying to get at here is, like, sometimes if it's really expensive and it's really cheap, there's not a disparity between the two products, because I think what happens is people can package their products brilliantly and they can charge a premium price, and we've started to see that quite a lot, where like companies are now jumping on the bandwagon of nutrition supplements, but then you actually look at the people behind it and you actually realize they don't have much of a nutrition background. And I think that's what's scaring me a little bit, because Amazon has really created this market for these people just to basically go, well, do you want to create your own supplements? Then go create them and do them there. But there's no research behind them. And I think that's what's kind of given me a little bit more of a fear recently, and I don't know why. It's just something that's been in my pit of my stomach, and I don't know how you guys are feeling about it, but it's something that's started to really bother me a little bit.
Yeah, it's definitely something that I've become increasingly aware of now, kind of working in the manufacturing side of supplements. And listen, it's a tricky thing because, let's be honest, we're in a cost of living crisis. Everything just seems expensive right now. So anytime we feel like we can save money, we want to. And often, because we talk about this all the time, a lot of people do require supplements these days to, support conditions, or because they're not eating well enough and they're malnourished. And that's really expensive. So there has to be kind of a balance to this conversation. You're totally right in that expensive doesn't mean good quality, but definitely I would be giving the side eye to cheap a little bit more. And this is where the kind of level of understanding can really help. When you ask me about different supplements and things, and I always, whenever I'm recommending any supplements, I really am a fan of kind of supplement cycling. There's very few things that I think, you need to take all of this all the time for the rest of your life, because that's just not sustainable. So, I definitely think there's different levels to whether you're treating an acute or chronic condition versus if you're just trying to maintain, a healthy disposition. But then also having an understanding of how different nutrients work can be very, very helpful in discerning what type of supplements you need to be spending more on, because it requires more to get good quality, versus maybe certain supplements or certain ways of nourishing yourself that are less expensive. In that other video we did talking about the fundamentals for MCAS, we shared a lot of free techniques to improving your condition before going down the supplement route. And certainly, depending on how you're trying to nourish, there's some supplements. I often say with magnesium, for example, if you're just looking for general magnesium support, then going down the Epsom salt route or getting some, magnesium citrate powder, which is generally less expensive, can often be extremely effective, rather than going down the route of a magnesium bisglycinate or orotate, which tend to be pricier. Now, there are certain cases where you might want those forms, and I'll discuss those in the magnesium video we're going to do. But having that understanding of the application of nutrients, vitamin C is another one. In a lot of general contexts, I think vitamin C is somewhere that you can save a little bit of money. Omega-3s do not save money. Anything with a fat, do not save money. Go and spend the most amount of money your budget will allow you on good quality products there. And also, question your companies. We get questions all of the time, and it gives me such pleasure to answer them, because that's what I'm doing to other companies when I'm looking at what clothes to buy, or furniture, or home products and stuff. I'm questioning them, what nappies. I'm asking them what materials, what processing you're using. So question your supplement companies as well. Don't just assume because they're on the market that they're safe.
Yeah, if they're on Amazon, they're safe as well.
Yeah.
I don't think many people actually realize where some of the stuff is actually really realistic coming from.
Yeah.
Or actually, there was actually a bit of a funny thing where some of the supplements actually aren't declaring what are actually physically in them.
Or the quantities?
Yeah, because basically what they don't tell you is how the supplements are actually being, like the actual fillers that are being used before actually going into its like capsule and tablet form. And I guess in some ways I was a little bit taken aback by all of this, and we're learning a lot about it. But I just wanted to kind of raise this with everyone and just give me your opinion. Am I wrong about these Amazon supplements? Could they be a danger to the health? Because some of them are just they're not got enough minerals in there to even have a benefit in some cases, because they've got no data around them. They've just picked on someone else's thing and said, guess what, this little bit of magnesium or this little bit of vitamin D is going to help you. And I think that's wrong, man. There's something to the call that's just, for me, that doesn't sit right with me personally, and that's what I'm trying to share my feelings and thoughts on it.
A supplement should always fundamentally be helping, so don't just take anything just because someone said, oh, this is great, try it, or there's a great marketing campaign. The way you can save money is to use your discernment and really try and make thoughtful decisions about what you're going to try and what you're not, because we're big fans of supplements, obviously, but just taking loads of stuff isn't necessarily going to hit it. I've seen so many cases where actually just taking one or two of the right things and doing loads of other free stuff is the quicker way to health than anything else. But I do think it's interesting. Obviously, our eyes have been opened up from the manufacturing side, but it'll be really interesting to hear, like, do any of you think about this as well? Like, is this just something that is on our minds, or is this something that you're aware of? Is there any area that you've seen it being particularly bad? Like, is there a particular type of supplement or particular brands that you feel, are really pulling the wool over our eyes? I'd be really interested.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for listening to our little rant, should we say.